Good evening to our live audience and the Rockville 11 viewing audience. Welcome to the first Rockville mayoral and city council debate. My name is Larry Finkelberg with Apex Home Loans and chairman of the board of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. The Rockville Chamber is a membership organization charged with promoting an economic environment wherein Rockville City businesses, nonprofit institutions, government, and citizens can actively work together to promote growth and prosperity. The Chamber informs the public about the views, concerns, and activities of the business community. It is our privilege and our honor to have been chosen by the city to host this televised debate. With that, allow me to introduce our moderator for the evening, managing partner of the law firm Barkley & Kennedy Chartered and chairman of Rockville Chamber's Legislative Committee. Please help me welcome Mr. Brian Barkley.
We welcome the candidates here tonight and are looking forward to a discussion of issues affecting the city of Rockville. Thank you all for attending, and thank everyone who's watching on TV, either tonight live or later. Since this debate is being televised and we have a number of candidates, we have a tight schedule. We request that the audience refrain from making any noise or response to any of the questions or comments. We want to let the candidates speak and be heard. Please also silence your cell phones. The questions for tonight's forum were drawn from questions submitted by Chamber members. I will be moderating the forum. Steve Edwards, a Chamber board member, will be keeping time, and Michelle Davis, President and CEO of the Chamber, will be assisting us. Candidates will be advised when their time is up and expected to complete only their last sentence when their time is up. Briefly, the rules for the first part of the debate, which is the council candidates. The first question will be addressed to the first five candidates as were selected by lot, starting over here to my far right. We'll each have 1 minute to answer that question. The second question will be addressed to the four candidates. Got it reversed. 4 over here and 5 over here. And it's not going to change the timing of anything. They will have 1 minute to respond to the second question presented, but if they choose to, they can allocate some part or all, if they wanted to any previous question, so that everybody will have an opportunity to address any question they want to. Thereafter, there will be a third question, fourth, fifth, etc., alternating back and forth. And at the end, we will have closing statements, and we will do that in the same order that we do opening statements, so that the first person over here on my right will start, and the last person on my left will have the last word in this portion of the debate. And these rules have been gone over with the candidates in advance. And as I said, they will be made aware of the time they have left. So I'm going to start I'm going to start on my left, I'm told, apparently, for whatever reason. I guess it doesn't matter, but as long as everybody knows what we're doing. So just reverse what I said. Ms. Onley will be the first person to speak, opening, and over to my right, Mr. Gottfried will be the last one to speak in closings. So, sorry about that. Ms. Onley, the first question for these five candidates, and you have 1 minute each, is?
What about?
We'll come in a moment. First, we have openings. Ms. Onley, opening, please.
Okay. All right, I should open?
Please.
All right, thank you. My name is Virginia Onley, and I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd to re-elect me to the Rockville City Council. During my first term, I ensured that our adequate public facility ordinance would allow us to maintain and renew our city so that young families with children, teachers, firefighters, police officers, and senior citizens like myself could afford to live in our city. We cannot be afraid of growth, and I support smart, practical growth in the years to come. It's important to me, and I stand committed to working with neighborhood residents, planning commission, city staff, potential developers, and not letting the development harm the character of our neighborhoods and ruin Rockville. I've lived here 22 years at Americana Center and served on 9 boards and commissions. I retired from IBM, where I worked for 35 years, and I'm a member of the St. Mary's Parish Council. Recently, Rich Godfrey accused me of being in the pockets of developers. Rich was asked on Facebook to give some facts to his allegations. He said it was a metaphor. Well, where I'm from, we call that a lie. I don't know developers personally. I don't have a relationship with them. I represent all stakeholders and will do what's right for the city of Rockville. So I'm asking for your support to re-elect me to the Rockville City Council on November 3rd. Thank you for listening.
Perfect timing. Mr. Hill.
Yes, good evening. I'm David Hill. I'm a council candidate. In 90 seconds, I cannot tell you my experience that qualifies me for city council. It's not enough. Just the functions I've served on in City Hall will take more time, not to mention civic and community service. Suffice to say here, I've been an appointed commissioner and legally responsible in multiple roles in the city government for 20 years. I run now because it's due time for me to step up and offer my service for elective office. I have experience and proven performance for you to be confident I can do a good job on council. No one here has my depth of knowledge on land use planning and zoning. Aspects of mayor and council will surely need to handle development matters in the city. These are among the most significant powers the city has. Among chamber members tonight, you might recognize me if you followed a land use application in the last decade. I'm the guy that asks questions, tough questions, probing questions, things I think citizens should know. I can hold tough standards, but I also hope you might recognize me as a fair adjudicator. For example, in the last month, the Planning Commission has handled a new business application on North Washington Street that wanted a very deep parking waiver. While I led the commission not to accept that first proposal in defense of adequate parking, I'm also the commissioner that had the savvy to use legislative rules to move a deferment of the application, giving the applicant another opportunity to craft a better approach, rather than be denied outright. So the matter came back last week, and we worked out an oversight regimen that gets the business operating without abrogating the public welfare. We saved a new independent business that will be opening shortly in the city. Can anyone else here say that they've had that sort of hands-on positive impact for small businesses in Rockville?
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
Good evening, and thank you to the Rockville Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum. I am Clark Reed, a new candidate for City Council. Someone from Rockville once said, "Unity is strength. Where there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved." If that sounds familiar, it's because the boy who said it was Matty Stepanek, for which a beloved city park has been named. I'm running for City Council because I want to serve the city I love. My wife and I moved here 14 years ago because of the rich diversity of neighborhoods, the friendly people, and the parks. But the unity that makes a city strong has been absent on the council lately. I'd like to change that. Teamwork and collaboration are essential to the functioning of a well-run city, and it's what I've been doing for the past 18 years as a federal employee at the EPA. As an Energy Star program manager, I help businesses save millions of dollars by reducing energy waste in their buildings. We use collaboration and teamwork to get our objectives done. It's a skill set that I would gladly bring to the council. I'm serving my third term as elected chair of the Rockville Environment Commission, and I am proud to lead city efforts in founding the Rockville Solar Co-op. We have as many as 250 families installing rooftop solar systems right now and producing their own clean power. There are more wonderful things that can be achieved in Rockville. We will be a great city as long as we continue to reinvent ourselves and build the future that we want. I would be privileged to serve as a member of the City Council. Thank you.
I'm going to suggest to candidates that you not get too close to the microphone. It's interfering with the sound a little bit. Ms. Balakovich-Carr.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing tonight's event, and thank you to the voters of Rockville for electing me to serve as your council member for the past 2 years. My service on the council has been guided by a vision of Rockville as a great place for people at all stages of life. I've worked to keep our neighborhoods vibrant and safe. I've sought new ways to protect our environment and our health. I pushed for our streets to be safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. I prioritized needed investments in infrastructure, like repairs to our water and sewer systems and bridge replacements. And residents will continue to receive excellent city services without an increase in their tax rate. But my work is not done. I want Rockville to adopt and implement an ambitious new goal to have no fatalities or serious injuries on our roadways. We can design our streets to be safer for pedestrians, bicyclists, and people in vehicles. I want to better protect the environment by enabling residents to compost food waste and give a discount to people who generate less trash. We also need to continue to work with the county and state to address the backlog of school construction projects in Rockville. I bring a wealth of experience in addition to my 2 years on the council. I chaired a task force on development policy, was vice chair of the City Services and Budget Working Group, and served 2 terms on the city's Environment Commission. I hope that I can count on your vote on November 3rd.
Mr. Priscilla.
My name is Mark Priscilla. I was on the Rockville City Council from 2009 to 2013. I am asking you to return me to council. I'm wearing 2 hats tonight. I am a businessman. I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the board of the Rockville Economic Development Incorporated, and I have been for a long time a strong supporter of responsible business in Rockville. But I was also an extremely successful Civic Association president for College Garden Civic Association, and 2 years before that as a secretary of the same association. So I have the neighborhood experience and I have the business experience. And I know how to bring those together because when I was the Civic Association president, I had to work with businesses on our borders. I have a record that I am very proud of in my 4 years in office. I voted to bring Choice Hotels International to Rockville Town Center. That led directly to the Cambria Suites Hotel and the Upton Building. I voted for the police station. I voted for the Goody Drive maintenance facilities. I voted for the senior center extensions. I put Redgate on private management, saving $630,000 a year and keeping that golf course viable. I will support the recent revisions to the adequate public facilities standards. That's why I'm running. We need to keep those standards where they are now. I also ran the Rockville Summit, and that's when we brought 5 sectors together from the businesses and the nonprofits, the governments, the residents, and so I was the one who brought people together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Feinberg.
Good evening. I'm Beryl Feinberg, City Council member running for re-election. Thank you to the Rockville Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum. 2 years ago, I acquainted residents with my long-standing credentials as a proven, results-based, and pragmatic leader in local government. Tonight, I can share that I kept my 2013 campaign pledges to preserve our neighborhoods, be a good steward of our fiscal resources, create an environment that manages growth, and help residents remain in their homes, especially seniors. Tonight you will learn about my initiatives and leadership to protect our children and seniors, seek tax relief on owner-occupied residential properties, advocate for neighborhoods in East Rockville, Horizon Hill, Lincoln Park, Montrose, the West End, and demand increased transparency and management oversight for procurement and budget where your tax dollars are spent. I am an independent candidate who will work collaboratively with elected officials, staff, and residents, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. If re-elected, I will work tirelessly so that during the 2015 to 19 term, Rockville continues celebrating its enviable ranking on the best 100 places to live. Thank you.
Ms. Mulligan.
Good evening. My name is Brigida Mulligan, and I am running to represent you on the Rockville City Council. In my 50 years in Rockville, I went to school here, became a United States citizen, and raised a daughter here. Needless to say, Rockville has afforded me opportunities that I could not have found in any place else. That is what makes this city special. But keeping the city special takes devoted citizens to be active and engaged in city government and civic groups. That is why I have been so involved and active with numerous city commissions, boards, and civic associations. I served as a member of the Rockville Planning Commission for 7 years. In this capacity, I worked on key developments across the city and helped to revise the master plan. I spent 2 years as a member of the Rockville Board of Supervisors of Election. I helped to found the Rockville Sister City Corporation and have been involved with it for 29 years. For 7 of those years, I served as president. I had a 36-year career with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, where I became an expert on managing large budgets. I have been active and in numerous other Rockville civic associations. Through all this community activism, I have developed a strong sense of how this city works and what it needs to be done. As councilwoman, I will be the voice of Rockville's average citizens, fighting to keep Rockville a safe and affordable place to live. I will keep a close eye on the budget to guard against waste and abuse. That's why I'm running for city council. I am not a politician. I am just a dedicated neighbor looking to fight for a better Rockville.
Please wrap it up. You're past your time.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off in
No,
mid-sentence.
I'm finished. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. Mr. Schoaf.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Schoaf. More than 12 years ago, we arrived in Rockville and knew this was home, and we decided to start our family here. I've lived in King Farm and in East Rockville. I've served on several Rockville boards and committees and actively participate in neighborhood associations and projects. In the last 2 years, I've become well known as a leading advocate for Rockville residents and have led 6 initiatives to better protect our schools and neighborhoods, get our local business owners and residents working together, and to work with our police to reduce solicitor scams and improve street safety. These efforts were not part of a campaign. I took action that was needed as a proud resident who wants to preserve our community and ensure every decision considers and respects our residents first and foremost. I have over 20 years of relevant, real-world experience as an advisor and executive leader to hundreds of businesses and nonprofits and 6 city governments. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets, hundreds of programs and staff, and initiatives taking organizations to award-winning historic levels of success. Yes, I have degrees in public administration and law and management, yet the organizations and businesses that hire me, they hire me because I bring together people. I develop reliable solutions, and I ensure initiatives get done right every time as promised. Tonight, I'm here to earn your vote and help guide our city towards better decisions for our future.
Thank you. Mr. Gottfried.
Good evening. I am Richard Gottfried. I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and I want to thank you for watching the first council debate. And I want to thank the Rockville Chamber of Commerce for hosting this debate. And lastly, I want to thank my wife, Stacy Gottfried, the First Lady of Twinbrook, for her campaign support. I am a small business owner. I am a certified public accountant. I have been elected twice as the Twinbrook Citizens Association president. Now let me tell you what I stand for. Number 1, right-sized growth. Number 2, protect our neighborhoods and families that live in those neighborhoods. Number 3, I will bring common sense leadership back to our government. And number 4, I believe we must protect our children. No child should attend a school at 120% of its capacity. My very first motion, if elected, will be to overturn this tragic vote this year that has furnished overcrowded in our schools. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Now that I got my left and right straight, we're going to start over here to my left, your right, with the first question, and the first responder will be Ms. Onley. The question is, in partnership with the state and the county, Rockville offered an economic incentive to attract to Town Center the Choice Hotels headquarters and the Cambria Suites building. Do you think it was a justified investment, and do you favor the use of financial or zoning incentives to entice a major employer to the city?
Well, personally, I think it was definitely necessary. Although, as an elected official, you try to get businesses to come into the area without offering incentives and putting that burden on taxpayers. But I think it was a good move. I went to the opening the other night of the Cambria, and I live at the Americana, which is just right around the corner, and it's a vibrant town center, and there's nothing there that's a mistake. We need more vibrance in town center, but we have laid it out very carefully, and I think as your elected official, when you reelect me, I will continue to look at those kinds of things to bring businesses so that Rockville thrives. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
I'm in favor of reasonable incentives to attract businesses to the city, and particularly large employers. But I think reasonable is the key word there. I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand, particularly at the state level, in terms of it's become commonplace for large corporations to demand these things for their actions. And I think the corporations should act as good citizens of the state and the city and localities as well. So within reason, we should be doing that. I'm not in favor of granting zoning exceptions and variances to large corporations that are fully capable of funding their buildings and land use as would average citizens.
Thank you.
Yes. You know, the economy is what drives our success in Rockville. It keeps our taxes low and our city services very high. And we need a diverse economic business climate in the city. And I agree that we should offer incentives, but I don't think that should be the first thing that we do. I think they need to be reasonable. And in terms of zoning, again, I don't want to get into a back and forth competition with other cities. I think we've got a very high quality of life here in Rockville. I think it stands on its own, and I think I would offer incentives as a second tier rather than a first.
Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Choice Hotels moving to Rockville has been a big success and a big win for the city. Although that decision was made prior to my term on the council, I think it was the right one, and we have Mr. Prashela, among others, to thank for that. It has brought hundreds of more people to town center every day who are eating in our restaurants, shopping at Dawson's Market, and putting money into the local economy. Looking to the future, I think we do have some new opportunities, particularly in the context of redevelopment of Rockville Pike, to attract new employers with good-paying jobs to Rockville, near the metro, and I think that is one tool that should be in the toolbox going forward to offer economic incentives to businesses.
Mr. Prashela.
Yes, I was one of those responsible for that incentive. You have to remember, it was effort by the state and the county to keep that company in the state and in Montgomery County, and Rockville was giving a very small incentive on its own behalf for huge benefits. You should remember that any incentive comes out of the bump you would normally get from that increased property tax. So it didn't come out of any taxpayer, it came out of the company itself from our increased take, which is huge. I did, when I ran for mayor last time, I did suggest that Rockville needs a policy on incentives. If you put me back, we will get a policy on incentives. And that includes when you offer them, what you expect to get out of them, how you track them, and how you make sure that what the company offers is given. They offered 475 jobs, good high-quality jobs for our town center, and that's what, in addition to the property tax increase we got, that's what we got out of it. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to go over to my right for the next question. And we'll start with Ms. Feinberg. And the question is, recent mixed-use developments have occurred north, Crown, and immediately south, Pike and Rose, of Rockville, and continue to expand. Do you think these developments will have an impact on Rockville? If so, what is your strategy to address the impact?
Thank you very much. In terms of the mixed-use developments, I think they are a big positive aspect and positive gain for the city. It provides an opportunity for those folks who would like to be living, working, playing, recreating in a one-stop shop area, so to speak. I think that's wonderful. It also, with the proper signage, can attract people to come to mixed-use developments who are not ordinarily within that community. It gives an opportunity for having a housing stock at different price points. You could have a mixed-use development of townhouses, condominiums, single-family houses, zero-lot houses. So I think it gives an opportunity for all types of income levels of folks to come to the city, and this is one of our crowning points in Rockville. She just lifted up.
Must be time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's why I stopped.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mulligan.
Yes, I think that we will be affected by some of these projects outside of the city of Rockville. I would be encourage businesses to come into Rockville just the same way. I don't think it's good that we have stringent requirements that are different from the county. I don't think we should be an island because we're going to suffer from it. I know that the Rio and the Kentlands and all those projects in Gaithersburg have affected, with the new Crown Farm, has affected their businesses. But then later on, it changes again. Anytime something's new, like Pike and Rose, there's going to be people that are going there, and we might suffer. I think we need to attract more business here in town center. And as far as incentives, I think developers come with some great projects. I don't think we need to use our tax dollars to do any of those incentives.
Thank you. Mr. Schoaf.
I like the idea of smart development. When we develop Pike and Rose and we think about it being fully functional for the people that are there and make it walkable, if it makes sense to the residents that are in the surrounding areas, if it makes sense with the neighborhoods, if it doesn't infringe upon the businesses, the small businesses that are operating in that area, I think good development can be smart. We need to be careful not to infringe on neighborhoods. We need to make sure not to infringe on small businesses. And we need to make sure to think about where we're going so that we're making wise choices about how fast we develop, where we develop, and what partners we bring to the table. And part of that is establishing a sense of identity for ourselves in terms of which businesses we invite to the table. Are we targeting certain industries? Are we targeting certain areas? Are we targeting certain demographics, potentially? What are we targeting? But we can't just build. And many of the plans that have come to the table, unfortunately, are plans where the developers has developed a plan as opposed to Rockville taking the lead. And I think we need to change that.
Mr. Godfrey.
Yes, I think that, first of all, I have a plan to keep the businesses coming to the city of Rockville. Number one, in our town center, we need to offer free parking on Friday night and all day on Saturday. Number two, for the new businesses that are starting up in town center or along the Pike, I'm going to propose a plan to create affordable commercial space for new businesses, moderately priced business units, I'm calling them. And number three, we have to have our stores open up late. I've knocked on over 5,000 households, and I'm talking to different neighbors, and my wife finally nudged me to go to Pike and Rose. So I went to this steak place, and the steak cost $44. I don't think that City of Rockville should be afraid of our residents drifting to Pike and Rose to go and buy $44 for a piece of steak. And then to add insult to injury, I had to pay another $1 in the parking garage.
Thank you. Now, the next question, we're going to start over here and come back this way, because it's your question. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. We go back. Sorry. Oh, but I do want to remind everybody, shouldn't normally have to remind candidates, you do have the opportunity to respond to a previous question if you choose to do so. Okay? So, the next question is, can you identify a recent development, some similarity to the last one, but a little different, in Rockville, Gaithersburg, or Montgomery County that matches your vision of a model development?
Oh, my goodness. Actually, I can. I believe that the way Gaithersburg has done Rio and Crown Farm, when I have family come from out of town, I take them to town center. But when I go out with my local friends, they say, oh no, let's go to Rio, let's go to Crown Farm, let's go to Pike and Rose. And I think those are examples of thriving areas, and I like that, and I believe that we can bring that to Rockville. We need to keep our thumbs on the pulse of development, but I believe if we get all stakeholders in the boat with us, that we can figure out what works best for Rockville, and I am committed that I want to work with anyone, whether it's a developer, a neighborhood, whether it's the staff, whether it's the planning commission, to really roll up our sleeves and figure out what's best for Rockville. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
I'm going to choose to pick up a subject from the last sentence because I heard a lot of confusion about what mixed-use development really is in principle. Mixed-use development is not about a variety of housing styles or things. It's really about collecting employment, residence, and services in a small area to de-emphasize automobile transportation and get a different land use pattern than we have in central Montgomery County than suburban development. I think the Pike and Rose has the potential to do that. It largely is going to depend on the behavior of the people that live there. But I would point out a difference in the development that you see north and south of the city, and I'd like to ask the residents if that's what they want. When I look at Pike and Rose, I see metropolitan-scale buildings that are 15 and 16 stories tall, and that is not my vision for Rockville Pike. Now, when I look at Bellward Farm, I see a greenfield development that's largely a tract development. And we don't have any greenfields left in Rockville, and I'm not interested in tract development in Rockville any longer. So that's the distinction I would make regarding the last question.
Yeah, I think the development that excites me is the Rio as well. I've been there often with my family, and the first thing that we love is the water. It's great. There's very interesting to see all the sort of the street life around those areas. My son, when he was younger, used to take the train. There's a movie theater there. There's restaurants. It's a very vibrant place to be in all seasons, and I think we would do well to follow that lead for Rockville.
Thank you. Ms. Polakovich, Carr.
The recent development that I would highlight is the Upton, which is the new apartment building in front of Regal Cinemas, where the Cambria Suites Hotel is also co-located. I think that is a great example of mixed-use development. It's a block away from the metro station, so it's incredibly easy to get on public transportation from there, walkable, of course, to the rest of town center. And with the new restaurants that'll be opening at the street level, I think it really will complement the other uses in town center and bring more people into town center and help to boost the other businesses that are there. Another important point to note about that project, as other recent housing projects, is the new affordable housing units that are incorporated into them as part of the city's moderately priced dwelling unit program. So at least 15% of each of those buildings needs to be set aside for people of moderate means. These are new teachers, these are firefighters, police officers, and making sure that they have somewhere affordable to live in the city.
Mr. Pershale.
Yes. I like Falls Grove. We just happen to be in Falls Grove, but I think it's a development that has been done exactly right. And if you go from Shady Grove Road to where we are in the community center, you have, first of all, an extraordinarily successful and vibrant village center. And then you have single-family homes, and then you have condos, you have townhomes, and you have higher density residential all together. And as you come this direction, we have not only this only community center west of I-270, but we have incredible nature. And the bike trail that goes in and the big pond and the way it melds in with the environment and melds in with its road structure, I think this is the community done right for Rockville.
Thank you. Next question coming over here. How do you see the APFO moving forward in the planning and development of the city in the next 5 to 10 years? Would you support any effort to reverse the change the last council made to the school standards? Ms. Wein.
As many of you are aware, I voted against the APFO and the weakening of those standards. I believe we have to have an adequate infrastructure. That infrastructure is not only for schools, but it is also for transportation, public safety, fire, and water and sewer services. I voted against it because, in my view, we can have development, but it was the developers who were really for the adequate public facility standards changing. What we have seen since the change has been an influx of almost 1,000 different units from different developers coming through the pipeline without really concerning adequate infrastructure, notably in transportation. One area has been along Wooten Parkway, where 102 are proposed for the Rockshire community, as well as an EYA proposal off Preserve Parkway with about 350 units. Both of those will be on Wooten Parkway.
Thank you.
I had to stop.
My view on the APFS is that, one, I think the city needs to get out of that discussion. The city of Rockville has absolutely no control of the school. They do not build schools. They do not control the classroom sizes. They do not control the programs that they can put into the schools. One of the things that is upsetting about the APFS is that people think that that is what we need to use to stop development. I heard that Gaithersburg now has changed their capacity to 150, and the reason they did that is because they were in moratorium because the Lake Forest development project can't go forward because of the capacity that they had. So I don't want to see Rockville in that situation. I'm also concerned about the fact that if we have a lower capacity, we're not going to get the funds coming to the Rockville schools that the other schools will need because they're over 150 or 180. I think we need to get out of that discussion and deal with the county. The county needs to have one standard for the entire county.
Thank you. Mr. Schoaf.
While I don't think that the APFS is the answer, it is a tool. It is the only tool we had. We do need something that isn't necessarily just designed to manage development and more tools to do so, and to develop management strategically, manage balanced growth. But we need something to control the overcrowding in our schools, and it is the only tool, again, that we had to do so. If we want to be leaders at the table and we are the county seat, and we believe that this is the right way to go, not only should this decision be overturned, and I think it is the only decision that I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years that should be overturned, just for clarity. We should not only overturn it, but we should go to the county, explain the rationale, bring the people that I've talked to at state and national levels about what's happened and what the APFS actually represents, and convince them to change their standard. Schools are one of the greatest strengths that we have. It's one of the main reasons people come here, and we can't damage it. And in terms of the statements about working with developers, we shouldn't be working with developers. Developers should be working with us.
Thank you. Mr. Gottfried.
Yes, thank you for that question. As I stated in my opening remarks, this is one of my 4 components that I'm standing for and running on. And again, I believe that we must protect our children, and no child should attend a school at 120% of capacity. Again, my very first motion, if elected, would be to overturn this tragic vote this year that has furnished overcrowded in our schools. The APFO has 4 components to it. The APFS is just one component. The other 3 are cost of water, the infrastructure for water and sewer. We're going to have to pay for that. More police, we'll be paying for that in our tax dollars, and more traffic on the roads, and more overcrowding on the metro. Growth does not pay for growth. You know, our children deserve better. We don't want it. We have excellent schools. We have 3 schools in the top 100 in the nation. Richard Montgomery High School, Wooten High School, and Walter Johnson, which is outside of the city. And our kids deserve an excellent education, and not just for a few more tax dollars.
Thank you. Go back over here again. Next question is.
Address that question.
As part of your answer, yes. You always have the right, as
gotcha.
part of your minute, to address any previous question.
Okay.
I'll put the question to you. Use your time as you choose.
Okay.
The question next is, what is your position on the proposed building heights and street widths in the draft Rockville Pike plan? Ms. Onley.
Okay, thank you. My position is that I think, and I apologize, I'm breathing into this microphone. Can you hear me? My position is that we should go a little bit higher. I believe it will be to the city's advantage on the height. The street width, I was totally against that. I think it's just too wide. I don't like the idea that somebody my age is going to be walking across 270 to get to the other side. So I disagreed with that. But I want to go back to the APFO, APFS question, because we all hear about, we're overcrowding the schools, and it's like a fear in us. And at one point, it was a fear in me as well, until I realized that if a developer wants to develop a new residential development, if we don't have the infrastructure, the project does not get approved. And it's very important for everyone to understand that we have to have the infrastructure according to our ordinance, or the project is not approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
I'll pick up on the question of heights in the Rockville Pike Plan. I've actually been seated at the table of the Planning Commission for this whole time and working very hard on that. And there's a fundamental difference right now between the Mayor and Council and the Planning Commission regarding those heights. The Mayor and Council, in their comments and review, asked the Planning Commission to remove all height references from the Rockville Pike Plan, which potentially leaves that open to be the highest zoning that the city has applied all up and down the pike. So that's high-rise buildings, 15 and 16 stories. The Planning Commission draft puts that level at 6 to 7 stories, and it uses the corridor plan that was designed by the zoning group in the mid-naught years for that purpose. I think that's the right height. There's also an engineering question out there. You can build a stick-built building at a fairly reasonable cost at 6 or 7 stories. Once you get to poured concrete and reinforced steel, you've got to go to about 11 or 12 stories before it becomes an economically viable building. So don't think there's a lot of gradations there. It's a pretty dramatic step between the 6 or 7 stories you're used to seeing around town center and the existing buildings on the pike, and really metropolitan scale buildings similar to those at White Flint that are 15 and 16 stories.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
I supported the vote to match the county standard because the city standard was not preventing overcrowding in the schools. New kids were coming in to the schools from new families when they bought existing homes. When the recession hit, a lot of kids were pulled out of private schools and they were put back into the public schools. So it wasn't working. And when the APFS stopped development, it reduced our tax revenues as well, and it drove development out of the city. So what should we do moving forward? I think we need to lead a county effort to reprioritize school construction within Montgomery County. I think we need to get MCPS to stop cluster averaging of schools and actually get them to address individual overcrowding instead of the schools. And I have my card here, so I will stop.
Thank you. Ms. Vlahovic-Carr.
As the Mayor and Council took a hard look this term at the Rockville Pike Plan, I think we had a really substantive discussion around the issue of building heights and street width, and there's a lot of technicalities there that I can't get into a one-minute answer, but I just want to say, in general, I think that it makes sense to put people near public transportation and near metro stations, and when you move further away from a metro station or from BRT stops, building heights need to be lower and more modest. In regards to the previous question, I think we've heard some good sound bites about what the APFO, APFS vote was, but I think it's a false choice that you're either for children or for development. I voted to change the APFS standards. I'm also the mother of a seven-month-old son, and my son will be enrolling in public school in a few years. And like so many other families in Rockville, we moved here because of the excellent quality of education in the Montgomery County school system. As a mother, I would not make that choice if I thought it endangered my son's education or the education of any other child in Rockville.
Thank you. Mr. Priscilla.
To your question about heights near Metro, I would easily go to 12 stories. Look at Americana Center. That's exactly how they are, and it works just fine. You put people near transportation. As far as the APFO, it has just been a failed policy. And so Team Rockville has gotten together and said, we will lead a different tack. We will organize that county coalition of PTAs, Maryland Municipal League, political leaders, neighborhood leaders, what it takes, and we will change the priority at the county level. That it's a political battle at the county level. It's about money, it's about priorities, and make no mistake, it's going to be a bloody battle to change those priorities, but that is what's going to get the school construction funds. In College Gardens, we have a new elementary school. Why? because King Farm came in. There was no APFO that stopped King Farm from coming in. What did we get out of it? We got a new school. We also got a lot better stormwater management because we're downstream from them. So we have all this negativity about it, but there's actually a lot of positives to the growth there can be.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Are you satisfied that we are doing all that we can to address the perception that some have that Rockville is a difficult place to do business?
Thank you for that question. I've thought about it because I have heard that some people are saying that Rockville Town Center is floundering and have been talking that as many as 15 businesses and stores are vacant. But actually that's perplexing to me because I know of at least 6 restaurants that are coming into the town center. I don't know all the names by heart, so I don't want to mention all of them. I think there are things that we can be doing. So for example, others have said it's floundering, but I haven't heard any suggestions for what they can do. But I have thought about them. I think we should develop a partnership with the thousands of workers in the city, from county and city employees and the judicial courts who come to Rockville, offer a 5% discount if they patronize any shops in our Rockville Town Center on the day or week of their jury duty service. Or another idea would be free parking on Saturdays or evenings, as one of my other colleagues had already said. Streamline permitting, that would make us a more business place so that new businesses coming into Rockville, whether it be town center or otherwise, can get their building permits more quickly and actually start earning money so their renovations can begin quickly. More wayfinding signages to find out where you're going, whether it be town center or Twinbrook or Falls Grove shopping or anywhere else. And lastly, more signage on 355 so that through traffic knows more of where Rockville Town Center and other shopping areas are located.
Thank you. Ms. Mulligan.
Would you repeat the question?
I'd be happy to. Are you satisfied that we are doing all we can to address the perception that some have that Rockville is a difficult place to do business?
No, I don't think we're doing enough. And I think the perception is not necessarily correct. There are a lot of new businesses coming into Town Center. Town Center is a 60-acre project. It's not going to be successful until it's all built out. We need to continue to doing that. The biggest problem in Rockville for Town Center is parking. You'll hear everybody tell you, I don't go to Town Center because of parking. You can go to Silver Spring, parking is free on the weekend. I think there are things that we can do. I think the perception is that we have a parking problem. But as far as having new companies come in or retail changing, that's normal. That happens. It's happening at Falls Grove. It's happening in King Farm. That's a normal kind of thing. There is a perception, but the perception is however people want to look at it. But as far as helping Town Center, I think parking is the big issue that we need to work on.
Thank you. Mr. Schoaf.
There is always more we can do. I have spoken with, and many people here actually know that I've spoken with many business leaders. I've spoken with lots of people in the South Lawn industrial area. I started to get them to talk with one another about ways that they can work together to promote their area, to improve it in conjunction with the South Lawn industrial study for those people who are familiar with that. People have been talking for years about town center merchants and what we can do for town center merchants. Well, as somebody who likes to get things done, I've spent more than a month meeting with more than 55 different town merchants. Then I found sponsors downtown to come together and we held a meeting. We had 19 merchants there, 19, I should say, store owners and managers there. We sat down, we talked about ideas, we talked about what they wanted to do, we talked about how they can work together. And they are now working together. They're already setting up their next meeting separate from me so that they can run on their own. I did invite the mayor because she's our presiding officer of the council, and she was there too to hear what happened. It was pretty amazing, and they were very excited. Can we do more? We can. Potentially we could have a business ombudsman to help businesses. Potentially we could have special programs for them. But for the moment, we are doing a good job, and there are ways that we can do better, and those things have already begun.
Mr. Godfrey.
No, we are not doing all that we can do. I'll tell you a little story. So I'm shopping and having some lunch at Rockville Regal Cinema, and I walk into the pizza restaurant there, and the owner asks a very reasonable question. Since there's construction behind them in the Montgomery County Government Building, people who pick up and for their takeout orders usually park there for free, spend maybe less than 15 minutes, and then leave. Now that that area is under construction, now they have to go pay for parking. And if they don't put enough time in, then they get a $40 ticket. And their business, has decreased. So, reached out to the city staff, the chief of police, and requested if we could have one free parking meter, just like they do at the Rockville Library, where they have a free book return. Park there for less than 50 minutes. And the city denied them that request. So, when I'm elected, I'm going to reach out to my colleagues and ensure that we can at least afford, we can afford one free parking meter. So our businesses, that we support our businesses, and they can flourish. And that's common sense leadership. And I also mentioned about the free parking in Town Center on Friday and all day, and Friday nights and all day Saturday, and my plan to create for new businesses affordable commercial space.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Ms. Onley. Is it important that the city's non-residential tax base grows to support the increasing cost of government services, or should the city rely on other sources of revenue?
Well, I think if you are an owner, you said the non-residential tax base, correct?
Correct.
Yes, I think that if you are a non-resident and you have real estate in the city, then you have to pay your fair share. So I think it is important, and I support that.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
I think the question was intended to address other than income from other than residences, i.e. businesses, government.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. Okay. Well,
My
yes,
fault,
I think that is important, because if money that comes from businesses, benefits the city. If we don't really control, because we don't work for the city, we set policy and govern. We don't control how the money is spent, but it's revenue coming into the city, and I believe that is very important for businesses to pay and to support the thriving of Rockville.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
The answer to your question is yes. I'd like to take up a different subject, which is Town Center, and I'd like to mention that I think there are three essential problems at Town Center. Two of them we can do something about, and one of them we can do something, two of them we can't. I would point that we're still having a hangover in Town Center because it came online at almost the worst possible economic time, and it lacked a base business tenant for a number of years, and that really caused some problems. The second part is not all business plans succeed, and when you install that number of businesses, some of them are going to fail because of their business plans didn't work out. And I think we're still seeing the back end of that particular behavior. The thing that we can do is vote with our feet and our wallets. Town Center is the first urbanist sort of business place we have in the city, and that means you're going to have to park somewhere and walk to where you want to go. And I think a big problem in Town Center is we are still largely a city of suburbanite viewing people. And until we change that and we actively support Town Center, that's when Town Center is going to thrive. Town Center is not going to make or break on all the people that come to it. It's great if we can attract them and all, but it's going to succeed because the people in the city are supporting the local businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
I'm going to go back to the idea of perception of whether we're business friendly. And I think to a good extent that we are, but there's always room for improvement. When inspections take a long time, when there's no transparency on the city to what to expect for permitting, then that's a problem. I think streamlining the permitting process to make it easier and faster, more transparent would be a good step in the right direction. We have the Rockville Environment Development, Inc. that does, I think, a great job of launching local businesses here in the city and cultivating minority-owned businesses, finding financial options to launch the city and worker training and all that. I think they do a fantastic job. I think when the purple line goes in, I think Ready ought to recruit some of the displaced businesses that will be looking for new places to actually hang up their shingle. So I think there's definitely things that we can do better for cultivating businesses in Rockville, but I think we're doing many major things already that position us very well to the future.
Ms. Balakovich-Carr.
I'm very proud that this term we were able to maintain the city's tax rate at the same level for the 7th and 8th consecutive years. Of course, commercial properties are an important part of the city's tax base, and they do really help to keep services affordable for our residents. But there are other sources of revenue that the city receives that have been growing in recent years and are projected to continue to increase in the near future, including the city's portion of the state income tax. And I'm also hoping that our negotiations with Montgomery County will be successful in terms of increasing the amount we receive under the tax duplication program, which is a program where the county is basically reimbursing the city for services that we provide that Montgomery County does not need to provide. So that, I think, is one area where we should be looking to and have been trying to increase the amount of revenue.
Mr. Priscilla.
Yes, my record says that I promote commercial growth in order to increase our take on the commercial property taxes, Choice Hotels and the Upton being two big examples of that. I walked every street in the city in 2014 and 2015, 519 miles of walking. And I'm the one who identified that some of our neighborhood centers are becoming decrepit. And Rockshire Village Center has empty storefronts. And King Farm Village Center has empty storefronts. It's not just our town center, but we put too much handicap on our growth. And that's why I want the APFS revisions to stay where they are. That has been one of the things that has stopped growth north of town center. I am the person who came up with that count of 15 empty storefronts. That was an underestimate. I easily could have counted 20 to 25. I only counted 2 empty storefronts at the Upton. I could have counted 8, 10, or 12 there. It's a problem. We're in our 3rd year of recovery from the Great Recession.
Thank you. Finally, last question. How would you reconcile differences between the Rockville Pike Plan and the White Flint Plan?
Thank you. Some of the differences between the White Flint Plan and the Rockville Plan has to do with the through fare and the number of lanes. Currently, of course, as we know, it is with the Planning Commission. The mayor and council have made several recommendations, and it is under development. I think one of the things that we have talked about in the Rockville Plan is the use of access roads, sort of like a service lane. That's one of the things in the plan that I would agree to, and I think what that enables is the through traffic to keep moving, and then provides the access roads for the businesses that would be closest to the roadway, and therefore it would also be more pedestrian friendly because we have the bidirectional bicycle lanes as well as the pedestrian walkways. We would also have the larger sidewalk areas. We would have 20 feet, 10 feet would also be for potentially al fresco dining. But I would like to also go back and answer part of the time about the additional sources.
Out of time.
Sorry.
So you have to save that for your closing if you
that
choose
will be
to do
fine.
So.
Thank you.
We're running a little over, so I'm going to have to be a little stringent, but I'll be fair to everyone, trust me.
Okay.
Ms. Mullen.
I actually like the White Flint plan, and I think that it makes sense to have the same continuity from White Flint all the way up to Rockville. I object to the proposal that the city and I believe the council have made to widen part of it to 250 feet instead of 182 feet, which is White Flint's width of the street. I think that it makes more sense to be consistent all the way up. And one of the reasons that I also agree is because there would be a cost to the city. If we went to the 252 feet wide, the city would have to pay for the right-of-way, build the roads and maintain it, and that's a lot of money, and the developer would be willing to do that if they were to be able to build up to that road. So I would definitely say I agree to having it consistent to the Whitefin plan.
Thank you. Mr. Schoaf.
I like the idea that the plan is consistent. I like not increasing the roads to 252 feet. I don't think that's necessary. But I also don't think that we need to be what White Flint is, and I don't think we need to be what other cities are. We need to think about when we're developing these plans, again, not to let the developers create our vision for Rockville, to have us create that vision for Rockville. I also don't want that widening because it's going to create a bottleneck at either end of the 1.9 miles. I think that's dangerous. If we need to move that traffic, there are other ways to do it. We can certainly get the county and the state involved when we're looking at freeways around us, or strategically thinking about how to increase our traffic flow. We haven't done that. We haven't brought in the right people to do it. But I think we need to, again, we need to lead that discussion. Quick note on APFS before my card comes up. One, the APFS didn't stop development. It limited development, and it could be done a lot more strategically with the APFS in place. The second thing is the APFS does not stop school funding. That's done at a different level. It is not controlled by the APFS, and if you hear that message, it is not accurate.
Mr. Gottfried.
Yes. Well, Rockville Pike Plan, we have to have the right size growth to protect our neighborhoods. Rockville is a single-family houses in a suburban community. We're not an urban, metro, multi-use residential community. We have to ask ourselves, how will our quality of life be better? Do we want our vision of green space to be a picture of a tree on the side of a building? That's common sense leadership. The growth doesn't pay for all the infrastructure. In my neighborhood in Twin Brook, the real issue is there's 4 lights to get out of Ardennes Avenue onto Twin Brook Parkway, onto Rockville Pike. It takes 20 minutes to go through 4 lights. These are the real issues that we have to address, not should we be like the Whitefin plan.
Thank you. We're now to go to closing statements, and again, we're going to start over to my left, your right, with Ms. Onley.
Okay.
1 minute, please.
All right, thank you. I've been called the swing vote on the council. A swing voter is someone who's not affiliated with a particular party or person and who votes independently, and I will continue to be your independent swing vote on the Rockville City Council. Whether I'm listening to the issue of the location of the Children's Resource Center, putting the S on Douglas Avenue so that it represents Frederick Douglass, supporting the land distribution of the paper maps, being the voice for seniors when there's a problem in the kitchen with the oven and the drain, listening to the sidewalk and speed concerns on Maryland Avenue between South Washington and Fleet Streets, or listening to the residents' desire to put a museum at Maddie Stepanek Park. I stand committed to listening to all residents and all neighborhoods, but my work is not done. I need you to vote for me and send me back to the Rockville City Council on November 3rd. To learn more about me, please visit my website, votevirginiaonly.org, or send me a note at Virginia Cares. Thank you for listening tonight, and thank those of you who came.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
Thank you to the Chamber for holding this event, and all of you in the audience for your commitment to be informed voters this evening. I also wish to thank the candidates up here on this side of the lights for running for office. It's particularly tough dealing with weighty and complex city issues in 1 minute. But I encourage you to think that our savvy in communicating tonight is an important skill alongside decision making that really is important to the job on City Council. I wish I could sit with each of you and discuss your questions and your ideas and hopes for the city, because I think that's really important that we hear from all the time. You have a broad field to choose from when you do your part in the democratic process by voting. I ask to be among those you favor with your vote. That's David Hill. I close by mentioning you can find out more detail about my experience, my service, my positions, also my opening statement. I said I didn't have time to list them, and you can go find all the information you want to there. That website is www.hillforrockville.org. That's www.hill4rockville.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
In my campaign, I've spent the last few months talking to residents from all over Rockville. It affirms my own feelings that Rockville is a great place to live and raise a family. Residents tell me that they value the city services and their safe neighborhoods, but I've also heard some of the concerns about development and traffic congestion and school overcrowding and struggling retail centers. If elected, I will be your advocate on these and other issues. I will work with the mayor and other members of the council to represent the needs of all Rockville as we increase the livability of our city and improve the well-being of our citizens. My professional experience in the federal government and on the Environment Commission has prepared me to lead our city and to carefully make decisions with both the present and future in mind. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Please visit my website, clark4rockville.com. That's Clark, the number 4, rockville.com. For more information, and please consider supporting my teammates of Team Rockville, Sima, Virginia, Julie, and Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Balakovich-Carr.
We're about to embark on the first 4-year term of the mayor and council. 4 years is a long time. We need a group of elected officials who can work together and engage in civil discourse to effectively govern the city. People who have the necessary experience. People who are not afraid to assess the facts and make the hard decisions that are required of leaders. Team Rockville is that group, and I'm proud to be running with Sima Osby, Mark Pershela, Virginia Onley, and Clark Reed. I'm asking for your vote so that we can continue to work together on the pressing issues facing our community, such as traffic congestion, inadequate investment in our schools, and the vacancies in town center and elsewhere. I want Rockville to continue to be a diverse and vibrant city, but I need your support to make that happen. Visit my website, julieforrockville.com, to learn more. Thank you.
Mr. Pershela.
Please return me to office. I think I did a great job in the 4 years I was in office. I look at the future of Rockville through the prospects of our children. I particularly look at our seniors, our 8th graders, our 5th graders, our kindergartners, and our newborns, because they are 5, 10, 15, 20 years away from coming back to Rockville as young adults. And that's how I look at what we're doing and whether it's worthwhile doing. There are 800 babies born in Rockville every year. That's why there's development. The developers wouldn't be there if there weren't people who are going to live there. Can our children return to Rockville? Where will they work? Where will they live? And how will they get around? And that's how I make my judgments. I bring people together. I ran the Rockville Summit. We had residents, businesses, nonprofit, education, and government all coming together to consider our problems together, to work together. I think we lost that sentiment in the 2 years I've been gone. I'm going to bring that back. I am proud to be, for the second time in a row, a member of Team Rockville. I think we have great people. My website is votepershela.org.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Feinberg.
Thank you very much. I want to share with you that I am a fact-based person, a proven leader, and an accomplished one, and share some of the things that I have done over the last 2 years. I initiated the call for action to identify senior service gaps and duplication with county services to meet the senior tsunami population today and on the horizon. I advocated for children's safety by successfully proposing the improved zoning text amendment prohibiting a self-storage facility within 200 feet of a school property boundary. If you return me to office, I will try to do the same thing to prevent liquor stores, pawn shops, and gun stores to be within school safety zones. I brokered a successful compromise with Rockville Town Center to increase the number of apartments from 222 to 400 while ensuring adequate parking. I identified serious purchasing deficiencies, initiated a procurement study, and also created a minority female disabled program, the first in the city. Thank you. Vote for me on November 3rd.
Thank you. Ms. Mulligan.
I want to thank all of you for coming out and watching the debate tonight. And I want to thank the Rockville Chamber of Commerce for hosting and putting this on. It is truly a great debate. Ultimately, I think there are 3 things that set my candidacy apart from the rest and make me uniquely qualified to serve you on the Rockville Council. First is experience. I have lived in Rockville for over 50 years and have been involved and active in city community for almost as long. I have served 7 years of the Rockville Planning Commission, where I learned valuable lessons about managing effective and responsible development. I spent another 2 years on the Rockville Board of Supervisors of Election. I have been involved in the Rockville Sister City Corporation for over 29 years and served 7 years as president of this Sister City Corporation. Second is vision. My vast experience in Rockville politics has given me a keen understanding of what Rockville needs to do to stay the great city. For me, the #1 priority is to keep Rockville an affordable city to live in. As a city councilwoman, I will be dedicated in keeping an eye on the budget. I want to make sure every one of our tax dollars is used effectively and responsibly. And third is independence. Unlike many of my opponents, I am not a member of a hand-picked political team. I don't work for any political interest group, nor am I a pawn of any sort of partisan organization.
Please wrap it up.
I am just an active citizen who cares about Rockville's future. I am the independent.
Mr. Schoaf.
Thank you for coming. Rockville needs council members with relevant real-world experience, and I hope you will take a look online at my website, patrickschoaf.com, or LinkedIn, or any site you want to get an idea of what my experience actually is. We need diverse, independent minds and voices, and we need leaders who get the right things done the right way and who care about the difference. First, we must remember who we are. This begins with our two greatest assets, our strong, diverse neighborhoods and our sense of community. If we join the crowd and develop at any cost, in 10 years we'll be a little fish in a sea of cities that traded community for unmanageable and unprofitable development. If we strengthen our neighborhoods and community, in 10 years, Rockville will be the last community of neighborhoods on the Metro line. We will be the place everyone wants to work, raise families, and retire, and Rockville will be stronger than it's ever been in its history. Yes, we will continue to win awards, but more importantly, we will win a place that we all want to call home.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Godfrey.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, I am Richard Godfrey. I stand for these following issues. #1, I believe in right-sized growth, growth that benefits the current resident of Rockville, not just big developers. #2, we must protect our neighborhoods and families that live in those neighborhoods. We live in a single-family suburban community, not a metro-urban mixed-use development. #3, I will bring common-sense leadership back to our city. #4, we must protect our children. No child should attend a school at 120% of its capacity. Our children deserve better than overcrowded portables for classrooms. My first motion will be to overturn this tragic vote that has hurt our families and children. I am asking for your vote on November 3rd. Please visit my website at www.votegodfried.com.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the candidates. That is it for the Rockville Council candidates. I'm sure you'll all be happy to know I'm not going to ask you to go to my website. We will now take a 10-minute break to prepare for the Rockville mayoral candidates. As we head to break, for those of you out there, here is some election news that works for you from Rock 11, your 2015 Rockville election headquarters. You can applaud now. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the 2015 Rockville Election Special for Rock 11 Now. I'm your host, Katie Giardi, coming to you from Rock 11 Election Headquarters here in Rockville City Hall at the Wall of Mayors. And it makes sense that we're here because coming up, we're going to give you all the information you need to know to make sure you're prepared to cast your vote come Election Day. This year's election is on Tuesday, November 3rd. The polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. For more information, you can call the City Clerk's office at 240-314-8280. And Rockville's election will be part of Maryland history. Voters will now be casting their ballots a little differently with pen and paper. Deputy Director of the Montgomery County Board of Elections, Allison McLaughlin, explains.
Rockville will be the only jurisdiction in the entire state of Maryland that's using this new equipment in the municipal election this year in 2015. The City of Rockville runs its own elections and city elections. The Montgomery County Board of Elections manages elections for county, state, and federal offices. We work very closely with the City of Rockville. We certainly encourage Rockville voters to go out and vote on Election Day.
Rock 11 teamed up with Alisoon and the Board of Elections so we can show you just how you're going to cast your ballot on Election Day. Take a look step by step.
Now, this is the process that you'll use to vote at your polling place on Election Day. When you arrive at the polling place, you'll check in to vote just as you would have in the past. But on Election Day, the ballot that you see in front of you is what you'll receive. You'll take that ballot and you'll take it to a voting booth and mark your selections on the ballot. If you make a mistake on your ballot, don't worry, we can always issue you a new one. Fill in the oval completely. Don't use a check mark, don't use an X. Make sure that you fill in the oval completely so that the scanner will be able to tell which choice you've made. And when you're finished and you've reviewed your selections and are ready to cast your ballot, you can walk it right over to the scanner in the polling place. At the scanner, you will insert your ballot, and after the ballot is digitally scanned so results can be tabulated on election night, your ballot drops into the ballot box and you're done.
That's definitely news that works for you this election season, but some of you may want to vote early. All you have to do is come to City Hall on Saturday, October 24th or Sunday, October 25th to vote. Early voting will take place on both days from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And remember, if you haven't registered, you can register and vote that same day. And the way you will cast your ballot on those early voting days will be a bit different as well. This time, you're casting your vote electronically. Our Rockville election partner, Alisoon McLaughlin, from the Montgomery County Board of Elections, once again shows us how.
So first we're going to go through the process. If you go to the third floor of the City Hall and you vote in the clerk's office, when you arrive, you're going to check in, just as you would have checked in as a Rockville voter in the past. You're going to take the activator card over to the Express Vote machine. You see the word Express Vote there at the top? You're going to put the blank card into the slot that you see in the lower right-hand corner of the Express Vote. And then you're going to see your choices come up. You can mark a write-in ballot if you want. If you want to choose something, deselect it, select something else. You'll see that you only have to touch it once now. You don't have to touch it twice anymore to deselect a choice on the ballot. This outreach ballot was designed by the state of Maryland. It'll be interesting to see what voters choose in our outreach events as their favorite bird, as their favorite Maryland food, favorite sport. If you choose languages at the top, you can change between English and Spanish. Sometimes a voter might start in English, decide when they get to a ballot question that's a little hard to read in the English that they'll switch between English and Spanish. We also have an audio feature. If you look at the bottom of the Express Vote, you'll see a keypad that voters can use, and there's a set of headphones on the left that voters can also use to listen to the ballot choices. You can just select Next. And now print card if you're ready to print your ballot. Now you have a ballot in your hands. You can take that ballot over to the scanner, and when you insert that ballot into the scanner, collecting a digital scan of that ballot that will let us tabulate the results on election night, and your ballot drops into the ballot box and you're done. We'll give you your I voted sticker and you'll be on your way.
If you can't make it to the polls on early voting days or Election Day, November 3rd, then you may want to vote absentee.
That's right, Katie. I'm Catherine Dantzler with news about how to vote absentee in this year's election. The first thing you need to do is apply for an absentee ballot. And to do that, just head to our website at rockvillemd.gov/election15. You have until October 26 to submit your application. Once your application is received by the city clerk's office, you will receive your absentee ballot in the mail. After October 26, you can still apply. All you have to do is fill out an application in person, and you'll receive your absentee ballot at the time when you go to the city clerk's office on the third floor of City Hall. Once you receive your absentee ballot, you must return it to the city clerk's office in person, by mail, or fax by election night, November 3rd at 8 p.m. That's the news that works for Rockville. I'll have more election news for you later in the show. For now, let's head back to Katie at election headquarters in City Hall. Katie?
And the city is working for Rockville seniors and the disabled who may need a ride to the polls. Call the Senior Services Center at 240-314-8810 so you can reserve a ride. The deadline to reserve a ride is Friday, October 30th, 2015. Working for you, Rockville, with news you can use when it comes to this year's election. Rockville is divided into 10 districts for voting, and if you are a part of Rockville's 7th voting district, you have a new polling place. Polling has moved from its former spot at Ritchie Park Elementary School to the Latvian Lutheran Church. The new address is 400 Hurley Avenue. And now to prove that your vote does matter, for the first time in Rockville history, Rockville's newly elected mayor and council will serve a 4-year term. You voted for the change on the 2013 city ballot, and it was approved by the mayor and council earlier this year. This means that the next election will not be for 4 more years, so you'll need to be ready to vote again in 2019. And finally, there are 2 mayoral candidates and 9 candidates for council vying for your votes. It's finally time to meet the candidates.
Thanks, Katie. I'm Catherine Dantzler. Let's take a look at the mayor's race. Incumbent Bridget Donald Newton and Sima Oxtoby. There are 9 candidates trying to get a seat at the Rockville City Council. Those candidates are Beryl L. Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, David Hill, Brigitta Mulligan, Virginia Onley, Julie Polakovich-Carr, Mark Pershela, Clark Reed, and Patrick Schoaf. Those are all your candidates for the 2015 Rockville election. Katie, back to you.
You can also see all of the candidate statements on our YouTube channel as well. That's the election news from your Rockville election headquarters. For more information on the Rockville election, head to our website, rockvillemd.gov/election15, or tweet us using the hashtag RockElection15. And check out all of our Rock 11 produced videos on YouTube at youtube.com/City of Rockville.
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know that there's an election coming up on November 3rd?
November 3rd?
November 3rd? It's up to us to choose Rockville's next mayor and council.
If you don't vote now, then you have to wait
four
more years.
Now is our chance to make a difference.
So that's why I'm.
So that's why I'm.
So that's why I'm.
So that's why I'm voting Rockville.
Where is he? Welcome back to the Rockville 2015 election debates hosted by the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. Before the break, we heard from the 9 Rockville Council candidates. Now it's time to hear from the mayoral candidates. First, let's introduce them. Mayor Bridget Newton and her opponent, Sima Oxtoby. And I did ask the audience before not to applaud, in case those of you at home were wondering. Thanks you all for being here tonight, and now we're going to begin with a brief recitation of the rules. The speaking order was determined by a coin flip conducted by Michelle Day, the president and executive director of the chamber. And in the beginning, we're going to start with Madam Mayor, and then we're going to go back and forth after that. And for concluding closing statements, again, we'll start with you and finish with you. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement in the order I just described. Then each candidate will be asked a question and will have 2 minutes to answer, alternating who is asked first. The other candidate will then have 2 minutes to respond. And unlike some other debates you've seen, we're going to have some back and forth if they choose to utilize it. There will be time for a 30-second rebuttal and another 30-second rebuttal. So maybe we'll get a little dialogue going here. At the end of the program, each candidate will be invited to make a closing statement of not more than 2 minutes, and we'll, as I said, observe the same order as the opening statements. Both candidates have been will be made aware of the time by a red card and will be asked to promptly stop in their openings, their closing, and their answers. So with that, I'm going to ask for opening statements. Mayor Newton.
Thank you. Good evening, and my thanks to President Michelle Fox Day and the Chamber for hosting this debate. I've spent the past 20 years volunteering in our city, partnering with stakeholders from all sectors to see that Rockville reaches her potential. My husband has spent his time developing and managing his own business, supporting our family while also using his financial acumen as a volunteer to help various Rockville organizations. Simply put, our time, our energies, and our hearts are in Rockville, making us the best we can be. Monday evening, prior to the council meeting, I was invited to speak at the grand opening of the Cambria Hotels and Suites in Town Center. Many of you remember that having a boutique hotel was a priority in the vision adopted by the Town Center Action Team. I served on that team for its entire existence, and out of it grew an understanding between businesses and community that we are all in this together. Along the way, I had the opportunity to work with Steve Joyce, and he and Choice Hotels then made the decision not to put a full-service restaurant in the hotel, encouraging their guests to venture out and support the dining choices in Rockville. That's called working together. 2 weeks ago, I met with Don Wood of Federal Realty about Town Square and the ongoing partnership between the city and Frit. He reminded me that I was the principal reason Dawson's Market came to Rockville, and we talked about the challenge to the city government, which can't dictate which businesses we want to see, nor do we control which ones will succeed or fail. I won't repeat them here, but I list all the wonderful restaurants soon to open in Rockville Town Center in my 4-minute candidate statement. We also talked about the partnership between the community, the developers, property owners, and the merchants, and how we should all be pulling in the same direction, and how negativity spreads faster than water. He's right, my friends. The old saying is true. Rockville has got to stop eating its own and start working together. I, for one, am very optimistic about the future of our city. We have so much on which to build, and you'll hear more tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Osborne.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for organizing this forum, and to all of you who've come here and those who are watching at home to learn more about those of us who are going to be serving you in this very important next 4 years. My name is Sima Ozdebi, and I want to be your mayor for the next 4 years. This is a very important election. Over the past 35 years, I've been honored to serve this city and play a leadership role in many organizations. That includes helping to preserve our heritage through leadership in Peerless Rockville, making our elections more transparent and easier for us to vote. For the past several weeks or months, I've been receiving calls from people all over the city who've expressed concern about what's happening or not happening in the city and fear about our future. Like many other people, when my husband and I moved to Rockville, we came here because the city had a reputation of having a forward-looking, responsive government that provided outstanding services to our citizens, and as well as really outstanding neighborhoods. I'm running because I fear that we may lose what we really care about in the city. We may lose what we care about because too many important decisions have been not made in the past several years. I want to preserve what we have. I have the experience in making very tough decisions, bringing people together, reaching consensus, and getting people to agree on what they do. And that's the leadership that we're going to need in the next 4 years for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. First question. It is ever more apparent that legislative bodies need to work together collaboratively to solve local, state, parenthetically national in particular, challenges. What will be your leadership style to work with council members in addressing the city's challenges?
So of the 6 leadership styles, the one I probably don't do is dictatorial. I'm very much a collaborator. I'm very much a synthesizer of ideas. You'll find me the way I've been, trying to bring people together. I think Monday night was a great example of an opportunity we had in the city to do a 5-0 vote on smoking, and we were able to get there. Sometimes it takes a little while, but I definitely think I'm a collaborator. I like to bring everybody to the table and, hear all the thoughts.
Thank you. Same question to you.
Thank you. I have a very long history of working in very complicated environments with people coming from many different backgrounds and getting people to reach consensus and agreeing on what they want to do and then getting it done. And I do that by really valuing the people who are working with me. I have a long history, including in this state, of getting very complicated stuff done. I think one of the things that speaks to my leadership is the fact that I am now capable of running on a team of people who are all quite unique individuals, 3 of whom have served with the mayor, and they're running with me. They're not puppets, and I'm not a dictator. Everybody is respected, and they bring lots of different qualities and different perspectives. And that's the kind of decision, and that's the kind of leadership that we need in this city. People who bring different perspectives and different skills and different life experiences. Because Rockville is a city that's blessed with an enormous amount of diversity in every way possible. And we have to represent, all of the people who live here and all of our businesses and our other institutions that we all rely upon that make this such a wonderful city to live. The city has really been very divided, and that's one of the messages that I was getting, and that's one of the reasons that I'm running. Thank you.
30 seconds to delve into that further if you choose to utilize it.
Sure. I think that the team that we want to see in Rockville is the team that the voters select, not the team that people agree to have the same ideas and support each other. There were a lot of ideas I had this year that I tried to, or this term that I tried to get out and couldn't get support, and I think that's unfortunate. When I want to work on the mayor and council, I hope to work with people who will support and work with everybody who's up there and not just the people that they ran with. I really think we're all for one and one for all in Rockville, and that's what I want to see.
You have 30 more seconds. You care to utilize it?
I'll save it for later. Thank you.
Next question, we're going to start with you this time, Ms. Osby. In partnership with the state and the county, Rockville offered an economic incentive to attract to town center the Choice Hotels headquarters and the Cambria Suites building. Do you think it was a justified investment? And do you favor the use of financial or zoning incentives to entice a major employer to the city?
Thank you for asking that question. Choice Hotels offered to bring more than 400 jobs to the city. It was very important to both the state and the county government to keep those jobs and that corporation in the city. Yes, I think the city made the right decision to offer incentives, and from my understanding and working with Mark Pershala, with whom I'm running, I think that the city benefited greatly from the small amount of incentives we brought. I will tell you that the mayor opposed those incentives, and she opposed bringing the choice hotels to the city. That's failed leadership. We have an opportunity in the future to use this again, and when there are more employers high-quality employers who want to move to the city, and it makes sense for Rockville, you bet that I'm going to be sitting down and working with them night and day to really make sure that they come here, but they come here in a way that works for Rockville. We really need to be at the table.
Thank you. Your turn.
Thank you. Let me set the record straight. I did not oppose giving incentives. I abstained from the vote. But the sad thing is that happened in executive session, and I'm interested that a person on the other team knows that happened. What happens in executive session should stay in executive session. Secondly, let's also remember the time, 2010. We were deep in a recession, especially in the city of Rockville. I believe that Rockville stands on its own, and we should be able to bring businesses here for who we are as a city and what we have to offer, not for the taxpayer funds we can hand out. I feel that strongly. Choice Hotels was an $8 billion publicly traded company. They don't need money from the city of Rockville. You know, we want to keep our tax rate, and not because of me, but the time that I've been on the council, we have been able to keep our tax rate the same at 29.2. You start handing out money all the time, you can't afford to keep your rates where they are. So yes, I'm thrilled Choice is here. They said the other night that I was their biggest supporter. I am their biggest supporter, but I didn't think it was necessary to give them taxpayer funds. I think we have so much to offer in the city that we can work with developers, we can work with businesses, and there are other incentives that we can offer. Parking, we have lots of other things that we can do.
30 seconds to respond.
I think the mayor's record on this is quite clear. And I've understood that we've got another major employer in Montgomery County that's looking for a site that's metro-friendly, and that's Marion International. My understanding is that the mayor has exhibited no interest in trying to attract them here. You bet that if Marriott is possibly interested in coming here, I will be working day and night to get them to come here and to do it in a way that really works for all of us who live in this city.
Back to you for 30 seconds.
It's unfortunate that I have to use this time to rebut another falsehood, but nobody has worked harder behind the scenes to get Marriott to come to Rockville. I have talked to property owners, I have talked to the Chamber, I have talked to many, many people, including some in Marriott. I would love to see Marriott here, and I'll continue my efforts. Thank you.
Back to you for the next question.
Sure.
How do you see the APFO moving forward in the planning and development of the city in the next 5 to 10 years? And would you support an effort to reverse the change the last council made to the school standards?
Well, let me say that I was very disappointed that the APFS was gutted with no discussion. We should have had a discussion and an opportunity to find something else that we could put in place. The APFS was not the best tool. I've never thought that it was, but it was the only tool that we as a city had to help manage the growth. Going forward, I hope that the city will continue to discuss ways in which we can bring good development and manage the growth to protect our neighborhoods, our schools, and our quality of life.
Thank you.
The APFO, the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, is a multifaceted ordinance, and I think that you heard some of the council candidates talking about the components, about it, requiring adequate infrastructure before a project brings in. The fact is that Rockville, as Brigitte said, does not make the decisions about where school spending goes. That's made by the county. The adequate public facilities standards for Rockville schools were a valiant but failed experiment. It effectively meant that we had a moratorium on building housing in the city for about 10 years. And during that period, our schools got overcrowded. Let me tell you, on the first day of school in my neighborhood, Newmark Commons, I walked past a bus stop, and it was overflowing with kids. When we moved into my community, we had a surplus school site that had never been built on. The elementary school that the kids had been going to, Park Street, had been closed, and then the next one, Hungerford, was subsequently closed. We went through a generational change, basically. All those kids who got there at that bus stop got there during a period of time when not one single house got built in my community. So that's what's happening throughout the city. People like me, an empty nester, we're moving out of their 4 or 5 bedroom houses, and we're being replaced by younger families bringing in kids. And the economy was also a factor in terms of kids coming out of private schools, as well as the introduction of all-day kindergarten. So there were many, many factors, not Rockville zoning law, that wasn't working at that point. I think we keep it, and we do have an option about what we're going to do. We need to go and work with the county, and as Mark said, we'll be leading an effort to work with other schools and other PTAs, to make sure our priorities are changed. Thank you.
I might suggest to you, as I did to earlier candidates, you get too close, it distorts the sound.
Excuse me.
Your turn.
Sure. I think it's important to remember that in the 1980s, MCPS closed 5 elementary schools in the city of Rockville. My husband and I moved into our house in 1985. We then produced children in a house that wasn't there. MCPS has not yet figured out how to account for potential growth that's coming. That aside, I'm glad to hear that there are more people willing to go to Annapolis and fight for school construction funding for Montgomery County. We need it desperately. We didn't get it this year, but there was a lot of effort to do it, and that is where it is. It's not just the county. The county determines where the money goes within MCPS, within their budget, but it's the state of Maryland that gives us the money for school construction, or gives Montgomery County and Prince George's County the ability to borrow money based on bonds and based on a bond rating that the state can help with. They did it for the city of Baltimore last year. We were hoping that they would do it for Montgomery County and Prince George's County this year, and they didn't. That's where the fight is, and that's where we have to take it.
One more opportunity, this one.
I think that's another argument that the city does have additional tools now that the adequate public facility standards are harmonized with the counties. We need to go and aim, where the decisions can be made. I fully agree with the mayor. We should be going to Annapolis. We should be working with the county. We need more school construction money. We need more resources, and we need to work together with other communities in this county so that we're not each fighting with each other. Thank you.
Now you'll get the next question. Give you a brief second to catch your breath, and then the next question is, recent mixed-use developments have occurred north of the city, Crown, and south, Pike and Rose, and continue to expand. Do you think these developments will have any impact on Rockville, and if so, what is your strategy to address any such impacts?
Thank you. Rockville Pike has been kind of the lifeline for the city for a very long time. And we've got this development that's happening to our north and development that's happening to our south. And it is affecting the city because it's generating traffic and it's coming through the city. So we're dealing with negative effects without getting the benefits of it. Can somebody please explain to me why it's taking 8 years to get a replacement for a Rockville Pike plan that's from the last century? The way that the city is going to affect what happens on Rockville Pike is, first of all, that we pass a Rockville Pike plan. And then we use that to make sure that what's happening on the Pike is what works for Rockville, that it's what this city wants. But by having no Rockville Pike plan at all, I don't see how people would make commitments to do anything there, because the rules are going to be changed once they start doing it, whether they're wanting to build here or not. So I think that the very first step is we really have to Stop the stalemate on the Rockville Pike Plan, get it changed, and start, deciding, to work with the county cooperatively and figure out what it is that we want on Rockville Pike and make it benefit the people of Rockville.
Your turn.
Thank you. The answer to your question is sure. Pike and Rose and Crown will have some impact on the city of Rockville for a while. Just like the new toy under the Christmas tree, everybody wants to go to the new places. That happens. But I think you'll come back to Rockville, and I think we've seen it. Pike and Rose is just going to lose one of their first businesses. The sports store is closing. Crown Farm has lost 2 restaurants. It's going to happen. Nobody can dictate, as I said earlier, who's going to succeed and who's going to fail. It's market-driven. I think Rockville is a solid city. We have everything that those don't have. We're self-governing. We're metro accessible. Crown is definitely not metro accessible, and you can get to Pike and Rose from a metro, but it's a pretty far hike. I think that Rockville being a livable community, a very diverse community, we have so much going on, and I think once people try the new toy, they'll come back to Rockville. I want to speak about the Pike Plan. Some people are saying that we've had the Pike Plan going for 8 years, and I think there needs to be a little clarity. 2.5 years, the consultants hired by the city spent drafting a plan to look like Europe. Then the city staff took the plan back and tried to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. 2.5 more years. Then the mayor and council got the plan, then the planning commission got the plan. They had it for a little while. Then the mayor and council got the plan. We had it for a little while, and we have turned it back to the planning commission. In all that time, please remember what's happened to the economy. We've come out of a recession. It's a good thing that that plan wasn't approved immediately because it was unsustainable. The plan that they're working on now and the plan that I hope to adopt in the near future will be much better for the long-term viability of our city. I hope it's a narrower road. I think if we put a road in that works with what the county's doing south of us and the county's doing north of us, we will have a better opportunity to work on the images, on the accessibility inside. And there's another huge factor why we need to make the road narrower. One is the state will pay for the funding of the undergrounding of the utilities if we go along with what they're doing. If we widen it and put the utilities in our access roads, Rockville's paying for it. I'm sorry, I went over.
That's okay. Back to you for any response, further response.
Yeah, I'm going to try to avoid Cheryl Sandberg's lean in instructions and lean back. So, the team that I'm working with is one that's going to be playing and not sitting out the game for 8 years. Leadership is about making decisions, and it's frequently about making very tough decisions. Nobody ever said that making decisions about the Rockville Pike Plan were going to be easy. They're difficult. That's what we elect our public officials to do, and that's what I and all 4 members of Team Rockville are prepared to do. We're going to make the hard decisions and get a Rockville Pike Plan passed. Thank you.
I think you have, if I haven't lost track, I think you have one more chance.
I think I'm finished. I look forward to passing a Pike Plan that is a great attribute for the city, and I think we can do it.
Next question.
Sure.
Some have said that the city of Rockville is, quote, not business friendly. What would you do as mayor to correct that impression?
Well, I think we're getting better. I think there are a lot of things that we needed to do, and we've been working on some of them. Our permitting process, our working through the communications task force, setting up the development review process. I think there are a lot of things that we can continue to improve on, our permitting process, our development review process, but we're getting there. And it is a partnership. I definitely want to give a shout out to Reddy and the Chamber for your advocacy and your willingness to help us see what we needed to do to make it easier for businesses and personal property developers within the city. But I think somebody mentioned earlier parking. I think parking needs to be revisited. I would support free parking after 5 or 6 on Friday and all day Saturday because I think that would be another incentive to bring people back to the town center. There's some other things that I think we can do in working together. We've looked at our fees. We've looked at some of the costs associated. One thing that I didn't say earlier is there's a school facility fee when a developer develops within the county. those fees do not go to the municipality, and I would like to have a discussion at some point on a way that Rockville can benefit from those fees, whether those fees only go to schools that are built within the city where the development is occurring, or how that is managed. But I think there's a way for the city to have a little bit more control, more pressure on the county to give us the school growth that we need. Sorry.
Your turn.
Okay. Can you please repeat the
Sure.
question exactly as you asked?
Be happy to. Some have said that the city of Rockville is not, quote, business friendly. What would you do as mayor to correct that impression?
And I'm going to ask the question that you asked because some of you may know that I recently was the board chair of a statewide organization. And I've been hearing some of those people who've been saying that Rockville is not business friendly. In fact, I've been hearing from some people that Rockville has a toxic business environment. I don't think that that's necessarily all true, but that is indeed the perception I'm hearing. And that means that people are complaining about a number of things, whether it's the inspection processes. Some people are complaining about parking. A lot of people are complaining about rents. This is not a simple issue to deal with. When I'm mayor, I'm going to be sitting down and meeting with the Rockville Economic Development Agency, with the chamber, with business owners, and with some of the major nonprofits here as well, to figure out really what the problem is, what's within the power of the city, to correct, and what's perception and what's reality. But we know in politics sometimes perception is reality, or it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've got a problem and we've got to do something about it, and I promise that when I'm mayor, we are going to do something about it. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting near the end. I'm going to ask you to give me about 20 seconds more each if you'd like, and then we're going to go to closings.
Okay. I want to skip ahead to something that we haven't talked about. It's the purchasing study. A little over a year ago, our purchasing director left. And when he left, he gave the mayor and council and the city a document that exposed some real problems in our purchasing and procurement processes. I want to give a shout out and a thanks to Councilmember Feinberg for continuing to advocate for the past year to get a study done. We were recently told that we will have a meeting on October 19th with the consultant, and we were not told, and nor did we agree, that that would be the only night, that we would have to bring them in again. If the mayor and council so choose, we can make a decision that night based on the information that we're given. So I just want you all to know that there are hard decisions to be made. I'm willing to make them, but they're not always pretty. And it takes I think, a cool head to be able to see that you're not reacting to something right away. You're waiting until the information comes in, you're synthesizing it, and then you're going ahead.
Briefly, any response?
No. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have about 5 minutes or so left, in which case I think we're about right on schedule, which is hard to believe. And with that said, as I said earlier, we're going to start in the same order. We did the openings, and you have 2 minutes. Go to it, Mayor.
Thank you. I've lived in the city of Rockville for 34 years, which is more than half my life, and I've seen many wonderful changes. Recently, Rockville was rated the 17th most livable city in America. We aren't anywhere close to being a dying community. What we are, my friends, is a city at a crossroads, and we need to start working together. Our business community, our citizens, and our governments are intertwined. People choose to live in Rockville because of our neighborhoods, our schools, our parks, and our job offerings. Those job offerings are here because we have an educated workforce. 62% have a bachelor's degree, twice that of the state of Maryland. 36% have an advanced or professional degree. Some would say we're not out of the recession yet, but the statistics for Rockville show that we've had a 12% increase in business growth since 2010. Businesses know that their employees want to raise their families in thriving and safe communities. So we need to continue to require good development, to work with our developers and property owners to ensure that there are community benefits like green space, parks, and gathering spaces at a minimum. If re-elected, I hope to get some traction on some of my ideas. a village green in front of the Rockville Metro, which would be an economic development incentive to Metro, 255 Rockville, and many others. It would also be a much-needed connector between East and West Rockville, and a place for the city to host hometown holidays, concerts, and farmers markets. We need a circulator so that everyone from students to seniors can move around the city. We hear a lot about affordability, and I want to see workforce housing added to the mix. People like our teachers, our police, fire and rescue, and some of our city employees who make too much to qualify for affordable housing, but not enough to afford to live in the city in which they serve. I've played an active role in Rockville for the past 25 years because I believe strongly that being involved is the only way to make something better. I'm not perfect, but believe me, my experience, my enthusiasm for Rockville, and my willingness to partner with all stakeholders, and my vision will serve us well for the next 4 years. I hope that you agree.
Thank you. Ms. Osterby.
I'm running to be your mayor for 4 years because it's time for a change. It's time for change in leadership in this city. If we are to preserve what makes us really special. Like so many other people, my husband and I moved to Rockville because the city had a forward-looking, effective, responsive government that provided outstanding services for the variety of people who lived here in wonderful neighborhoods. We're at risk at losing that if we don't make the decisions that have been put off for a very long time. You know those new buildings where the ribbon cuttings are? Those were basically planned 10 years ago, and you're beginning to see them built now. We've essentially lost 8 years of development time in Rockville Pike. You know, while the world is passing Rockville by, we have really got to step up our game and make the really tough decisions for Rockville Pike, for our neighborhoods, to preserve our neighborhoods, to make sure that the retail centers in our neighborhood areas are thriving, to make sure that Rockville's beautiful town center is going to be a success. This is going to require some really, really tough decisions. I believe I'm working with a team of people who bring a great amount of information, different perspectives to work together to come up with a solution. And we're going to work on this in fact-based ways. We're going to take a look at really what it costs to do things, who's going to be affected, who's going to win, who's going to lose, what do incentives bring, and will this be able to preserve the qualities in this city that we really love. I hope that you will vote for me as your next mayor and the 4 wonderful people I'm running with on Team Rockville to be your council. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who came and listened tonight, and everyone watching on TV. I only have one remaining request. Whatever you got out of these debates, vote. Thank you. Please applaud the candidates.